Okay. Why Star Wars Battlefront 3 will never be released. Oh, baby.
What's up, everybody? This is the Youngling Killer Man here, and today, I recently went back to play Battlefront 2, and I was having so much fun with my buddies, but then, I became
Didn't you get such a sense of pride and accomplishment when you played that game, though, dude? Shit was so prideful.
really confused. As I was meditating and watching those wrist rockets just like the simulations, I saw a vision of the future. It was a dark vision, so horrible I almost shudder to think about it.
No.
I saw a future completely devoid of Star Wars Battlefront 3.
And here's why, even if Battlefront 3 were to get released, it would not be anything close to what you would want it to be. So Battlefront 2 was one of the flagship games that I think, what was it, EA? EA fucked up, and the entirety of the internet swarmed to change the game, and it actually worked. So that was one of the few dubs that the internet was able to win against a developer in its gameplay change. So I think when Battlefront 2 first came out, you had your basic soldiers that each army faction had, and if you wanted to unlock a new hero, a named person like Vader, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Leia, Han, so on and so forth, you had to take a considerable amount of time to gain like some sort of in-game currency to purchase the hero for you to be able to unlock them. And then once they're unlocked, then they can pop up in your options when you go to choose your hero. So somebody on Reddit did the math, and they calculated something like it was like 10 or 20 years or 30. I forgot exactly how long, but it was an unfathomable, well, not unfathomable. It was a ridiculously, unreasonably long amount of time to unlock that character. So much to the point where Battlefront had to backpedal and patch the game and make it so you unlock heroes quicker because of the roar of the internet. And since that's the state that the game was released on day one, that's what gamers are going to remember for the most part. Gamers are going to remember when the game first came out. Their first impression is what matters the most. It doesn't really matter if Battlefront 2 is now a good game in current day, because that's not how gamers operate. They don't have a list of games on their wall that they monitor, and they're just sitting there thinking, "Oh, is the game good yet? It got released on this day, but is the game good yet? No. Is the game good yet? No. Is the game good yet? No. This patch just released. Is the game good yet? Nope. How about a couple years later? Is the game good yet? Can I play it now? No. Oh, now the game is good? Okay, I can play the game now. Yeah, 2-3 years later, the game's good to play now. Oh yeah. Gamers literally do not operate like that. Okay, your first impression is what matters the most, and Battlefront 2 fucked that up so much that I don't think that Battlefront 3 would be any better. If Battlefront 3 were to get released, it would be close. I don't think it would be as egregious as Battlefront 2 in their monetization scheme with loot boxes. I don't remember what it had because it was just a little thumbprint in my head or whatever. I don't remember if they had like loot boxes or card pack openings or whatever the fuck. It took an ungodly amount of time to grind a hero to unlock them or whatever. EA would somehow figure out a way to waste your time just as long, not maybe as egregious, but still there would be some sort of considerable amount of time investment that they would implement in the game that it still would not be fun. They would figure out a way to fuck it up 100%.
I recently had an epiphany. It's like, why hasn't Battlefront 3 been announced yet? I mean, it's been almost 6 years since the last one.
Well, because when you think of Battlefront 2, most people remember the first impression of that game and the horrendous monetization scheme of that game, because didn't they have like coins, like Battlefront tokens or coins or some shit that you could purchase in that game? That thought is still in people's heads, because essentially whenever you go back to think about a game and whether or not it was good or bad, the only things that you remember about it after like a given amount of years or whatever is you say the title of the game and, oh, that was good, or oh, that was bad. And then maybe you can think about what was good and what was bad about it. It's not like some big detailed explanation for it or whatever. And in general, if I think about a title in the past that was bad, it's just bad. I can't remember why it was bad. I just remember it was bad.
What could possibly be taking so long? And then it hit me like a blaster bolt to the groin. Battlefront 3 is taking so long because they're not making it.
Yeah.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
And then I had an even worse realization. Battlefront 3 will likely never be released.
Yeah.
Because always two there are. No more, no less. At this point, I'm convinced this series is cursed to never replicate the movies and create its own complete trilogy. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. The tragedy of Star Wars Battlefront 3.
You might as well just talk about the tragedy of the beginning of Battlefront 2 and how that soured all the gamers' taste of Battlefront, causing Battlefront 3 to not be made.
But first, why is Battlefront so important? Yes, this is a dumb question, but Star Wars has seen hundreds of games release over the last 40 years across every conceivable genre. And amongst all of these Star Wars games, I'd go out and say Battlefront 3 is the most important and iconic. It combines virtually everything we love about Star Wars into a single game. Epic space
Do you mean Battlefront 2?
battles, intense boots on the ground combat, large-scale warfare with vehicles, clones, droids, Wookiees, Ewoks, tons of different classes stretching across all three eras of the films. All our favorite.
Yeah, you could literally get immersed in the coolest parts of Star Wars, which was the battles, for the most part. All the action stuff, all the army v army, faction v faction things, all the iconic characters that were on the screen, all the weapons they used, all the battle tactics, and so on and so forth. You can go around. You're the main character. You know, I'm Han Solo. I'm just gonna whip out the first shot on everybody, bop bop, and you know, I'm the cool guy.
Heroes and villains duking it out across several different planets. Battlefront to me always felt like Star Wars' answer to other mainstream online shooters. Something that could go toe to toe with whatever the top shooter.
Bro, imagine if Star Wars Battlefront, like the modern day one, imagine if that had a really in-depth movement system like Apex, and it actually felt good. That would actually be cool, in my opinion.
Is Fortnite, Halo, COD, doesn't matter. Battlefront can compete with it. And not to mention the fan service these games provided and memorable one-liners.
Now hear this. All hands man your battle stations.
All four mainline Battlefronts are in the top 10 list of best-selling Star Wars titles ever.
Yeah.
The Battlefront series has sold well over 43 million copies. That's like a fourth of all Star Wars video game sales.
That's significant.
And that's what's so confusing about this. EA has historically been, how would I put this? A company that might secretly be run by Mr. Krabs.
Is this good for the plot?
Battlefront is just an awesome series. It's an amazing concept, and better yet, it's a money printing machine.
Yeah.
And they've decided to turn it off? Huh? Star Wars Battlefront 3 isn't happening? DICE won't get the chance to make it?
No fucking way!
What kind of nonsense is this?
So nobody's working on a new Battlefront game. Why? Just in case you had the tiniest sliver of hope that I might be wrong about this,
Because of the stigma that Battlefront 2 left.
According to this VentureBeat article, DICE and EA are not working on Battlefront 3 and have no plans to. Ladies and gentlemen, please take out your lightsabers and join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing about it Apparently EA rejected a sales pitch from DICE for Battlefront 3. I guess everyone was putting all their eggs in the 2042 basket.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
You chose poorly.
Oh yeah, Battlefront 2042. Yeah, that shit was ass. If I look at the concurrent players on Battlefront 2042, isn't it like 5,000 max or something? Yeah, there's probably like a niche of players that play it, you know, at least off of Steam. But would would DICE want more players to be playing it currently? Yeah.
As Tom Henderson says, due to licensing costs, it takes 20% more sales to make the same money, said one past developer. So EA was concerned about not getting 20% more sales than usual. Buddy? Buster? My guy? My dude? It's Star Wars. It's Battlefront. It sells on its name alone.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about how fucking hyped people would be if Battlefront 3 got announced. Remember?
Oh yeah, I'd be super hyped if Battlefront 3 were to be announced. But I would also temper my expectations. They would have to come out with some sort of marketing thing where they would say there was no microtransactions in this game. You know, how like Baldur's Gate 3 did. They came out with that little infographic with like all the bullet points of there's no microtransactions, there's no paid cosmetics, there's no battle pass, there's no this, there's no that, there's no in-game currency, there's no diamonds, there's no crystals, and blah blah blah. They would have to come out with something so redeeming that would be their main marketing point. We just want you to get immersed in the game with all the characters, the heroes, the factions, the vehicles, and we just want you to enjoy the Star Wars universe how it was originally intended on the original Xbox. Like the original Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2.
Remember how I talked about Baldur's Gate 3 being the culmination of Larian's work on RPGs? That's what I feel like Battlefront 3 could have been.
Yeah.
Maybe if they didn't stop working on the second game to make 2042, life would be a lot different and better. Just in case there weren't enough reasons to be salty about 2042, its godforsaken release is a huge reason why EA is distancing themselves from DICE. In turn, DICE has decided... Oh, thank you. That they'll be focusing entirely on fixing 2042. As of June 22nd...
I think a couple people would argue against that, but I mean, because if I look on Twitch or the concurrent Steam players, those numbers would say otherwise. I don't even think the game is fixed currently. So, yeah.
Last year, I don't think anything has changed. DICE's general manager says, "We are only focusing on 2042. There is no time for anything else. In 3 years, we want to be the first-person shooter powerhouse that DICE deserves to be."
Well, if you wanted that, why didn't you just fix the game in the beginning when you're going to have your most players? When a game gets released, it's never going to have any more players than when it initially gets released on day one. And on day one, you're going to leave the most impression on the most players. So why wouldn't you put more time and effort into that first day? Within the first week or first month, that's where you're going to have your most players drop off. And they will have already made up their mind on whether or not they will continue to play the game. It doesn't matter if you market it as a live service game. If the game was bad on day one, it's probably going to be bad the rest of the time. I'm not trying to buy a product that's going to be good in a year or two. I want to buy a product and have it be good on day one. All right? That's it. It's simple. Okay.
DICE certainly deserves to be an FPS powerhouse, because they're not right now, and that's what this statement implies.
Yeah.
It is such a quiet thing to fall, but far more terrible is to admit it.
DICE is in a rebuild season right now, probably for a few seasons, which makes sense. She also said, "I want the team to be really proud about Battlefield 2042. That is what they are chasing, and they have their hearts and passion there." You know, I was going to make a joke about abandoning a ship that's already been sunk, but I can respect it. If you take a massive dump in the kitchen, you can't just wait for it to decompose. You gotta clean that up. Get some disinfectant. I can understand why fixing Battlefield 2042 is more of a priority in terms of like pride, but I don't quite understand why DICE isn't pursuing the more lucrative option.
Where was all that pride and drive in the beginning when 2042 first came out? What's all this bullshit years later where we were committed to the process of making it a great game and blah 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 live service? And where was all that on day one? Huh? Where was it?
Probably because of EA. You know, 2042 was so bad in my eyes that working on it does feel like a lost cause, because I'm probably never going to play it again.
To my knowledge, I think Battlefield 2042 is a decent game current day, but I don't care. I literally don't care, because it's not the popular thing. Nobody's playing it. I say that in jest, but there's a couple thousand people to play it, and that's about it. And it does have crossplay, which means there's M&K versus controller, which means controller has aim assist, and blah blah blah.
I doubt that game's launch is something they can recover from, like the launch of BF2. I'd rather them go back to updating that, to be quite honest. Even if we're impatient as fuck and want a Battlefront 3 ASAP, I don't think anybody wants DICE, at least current DICE, to make one. Perhaps fixing and improving 2042 is a test for DICE, and if they prove themselves, maybe they'll get another shot. At the very least, we have a consolation prize, because at least 2 other Star Wars games are in development, an FPS being developed by Respawn and an unnamed strategy game. So those—
Okay, so I am kind of curious about the Star Wars FPS thing, and then Respawn making the Star Wars game. I wonder if they're actually going to use the Source engine. So Source engine plus Star Wars. Is there literally going to be like wall bouncing and tap strafing in the Star Wars FPS if it does use the Source engine? Or maybe they'll just like not use the Source engine and then they'll just go to Unreal 5. Who knows? I mean, that is kind of tempered excitement that goes along with that. But who knows?
Those are some pretty big reasons why we're not getting Battlefront 3 anytime soon. But is it still possible to get it in the unforeseen future? I don't know, man. There's a lot of hurdles to overcome.
I would probably have someone else make the game and not DICE. You got to get somebody else. I don't care who, just anybody else.
Like monetization. I'm not sure who loves live service games more, Activision or EA, but it's safe to say I bet a lot of higher ups were pissed they had to pull loot boxes out of the game at the last minute.
Yeah,
I mean,
it had
the
loot
entire
boxes.
internet got so pissed. It completely derailed their monetization plans.
There it is. The intent is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes. But you don't really specify how long it takes. Oh my god, look at the downvotes. You can't even see. Like, but my over 600,000 down dudes. Oh my god. That is the funniest shit. I didn't even know the number could go down that much. That's hilarious. What an L for this account, dude. Oh my gosh. This is the funniest fucking shit. And then look at the amount of awards. It's like over 1,000 awards. Oh my gosh. Yeah. When adults try to make an apology for something, very rarely is it the case that they are genuinely sorry for what they did and apologetic. Most of the time they are sorry that they got caught and called out for the dumb shit that they did and are trying to save face for the most part. Yes, there's probably a couple outliers where people are, like I said, genuinely apologetic because they didn't know or whatever, but for the most part, adults really don't mean that they're sorry when they got called out for doing some dumb shit.
And they didn't even introduce microtransactions into Battlefront 2 until 5 months after release. That's 5 months of loot box sales they missed out on. No doubt this left a bad taste in EA's mouth. It left a bad taste in all our mouths, man. Sometimes I still get a faint whiff of goat vomit every time I think about someone paying for star cards. Like Battlefield 2042, it seems to continue.
Did they also have star cards? Like, what the fuck is that, dude? They had loot boxes and they had to rip those out, so they just implemented star cards? Or was that a different game? I don't even know. That, like, having boxes and card packs in these games that are supposedly live service is just hilarious. It's so bad.
Updates, development, and content for Battlefront 2 was there to repair the game's image as well as DICE's. You know, they ended up replacing loot boxes with paid cosmetics, many that were awesome, but no way in Hoth did they make more money than they would have with loot boxes. In this sense,
oh, so they had paid cosmetics. Oh, because you got the remaining 1,000 people that are playing Battlefront 2 to actually give a shit about what they look like, and I gotta be the cool guy. I gotta have the cool stuff on. God forbid I actually grind for the cool cosmetic. I need to be able to pay for the cool cosmetic. Oh my God. It's not enough for me to be good at the game. I need to look good and pay for it. I gotta flex those dollars on those pores. Oh yeah.
Battlefront 3 might seem too risky to the EA higher-ups, and a game like that is gonna need funding. The stigma around this series is also too strong to ignore.
Yeah.
I mean, loot boxes became associated with gambling, and several countries introduced new legislation as a result.
True.
This was basically the straw that broke the camel's back, and now everyone has slowly but surely abandoned the loot box model. The cold hard truth is that yes, we defeated the loot box menace, but we paid a heavy price for that. Battlefront 3 was the cost of that victory. Any announcement for Battlefront 3 would bring up that same discussion again, you know? How the hell would they monetize this game without...
They would figure out something just as shady, just as predatory. It would simply have a different mask on it. It wouldn't be packs. It wouldn't be boxes. It would be something else, okay?
Pissing people off. Well, paid premium cosmetics are always a barrel to dip into.
Yep.
So the bottom line, DICE and EA aren't working on Battlefront 3 because it's too much of a clusterfuck. And although these reasons make sense, it doesn't make it any less disappointing. But Man, I have an ace up my sleeve.
Oh, also, Battlefront 3 would probably be $70+ with 3 different editions. All right, you got the $70 edition, which is the base game. The $80 one, the $90 one, and the $100 one, which is the Super Giga one, where you get a soundtrack and an art book and maybe a shirt. And yeah, that's it.
A trump card. What if another studio were to make it? I hate to disappoint you, but that idea is more improbable than DICE making it. I mean, I guess EA doesn't hold a monopoly on the Star Wars video game license anymore. I suppose anybody could make Battlefront 3, but here's the conundrum. We all have pretty high expectations for an official third Battlefront, so anything less than what we have in 2 is gonna feel like a downgrade. Like I said, DICE is in no position to make it, especially after losing so much senior talent in the last few years. And I want to believe you that another studio could do it, but the nail in the coffin for this idea is if that studio isn't working with the Frostbite engine, they'll have to start from scratch. Now, the Frostbite engine can apparently be licensed to other studios, but it's also notoriously hard to work with. So no studio in their right mind is going to license that software, pay the licensing fee to DICE and for the Star Wars IP, to then take years to teach their staff how to use it just to salvage the work that DICE has. If DICE would even let them use that work. You know what I mean? You see what a clusterfuck this would be? So much awesome work has already been done that, like, scrapping all of that is just an awful idea. Whoever makes Battlefront 3 needs to build on what's already there, because that's the only way we're gonna get galactic conquest again. This is all besides the point that the perfect Battlefront 3 had already been canceled once before. Unfortunately, there's just too much drama surrounding the series. I mean, the 3rd and 4th games were planned by Free Radical and LucasArts, but bad blood between the two companies got them both canceled. Former Free Radical developer and current lead designer at Naughty Dog, Michael Barclay, said, Star Wars Battlefront 3 was going to be legit incredible, and the fact it got canceled 2 yards from the finish line is an absolute crime. Gamers don't know what they were robbed of. Oh, I know, Michael. I know that we are robbed of a contender for greatest Star Wars video game ever made. I know you guys were planning on having ground to space battles in the same scenario, the same map. I know that you guys wanted to add Master Coda, Asajj Ventress, and Ahsoka as playable heroes. Still don't have that.
Could have been a contender, man. I mean, I think they have those characters in the modded version. You just download some mods and put them into Battlefront 2. To my knowledge, I think.
And that you could just take off with a ship and fly up to an enemy carrier, and then it's just like you're in the Battlefront 2 space battles.
Now hear this.
A fourth game was in the pre-planning phase, and it would have been all about what ifs, alternate scenarios. And I found some of the coolest fucking concept art that I can't believe none of this has been used to sell skins or anything.
Usually in the case of Star Wars, anything that, at least what I found, anything that is canon and made by the main big companies that have the license on Star Wars, the content is generally kind of mid, whereas fan-made Star Wars things and third-party things like the Legends series of the books, you know, they used to be canon, but they were decanonized. A lot of that content is way cooler than mainstream Star Wars. It just is, because you can have cool things like Wookiees with chains and all scarred up, and like, look, he's like collecting scalps over here. It's like, this is fucking awesome.
Dark Mace Windu, an alternate scenario where his lightsaber exploded in the duel with Sidious, but he survived. Redeemed Vader. Look at that.
That's actually cool.
Dark Jedi Leia, pre-cyborg Grievous. Shit, man, I'd pay good money for cosmetics like these.
Nah, still wouldn't. I would just probably complain that, why didn't you just make it grindable in game instead of paying for it?
Battlefront game that's all about what if scenarios, it sounds like the perfect direction. It's such a shame, man. Free Radical had so many incredible ideas that you can check out on this archive site if you want to be sad. Although the unfinished gameplay looks rough, it gives you a pretty good idea of how awesome this game would have been if it was complete. These concept art images remind me of that alternate ending in the episode 3 game where Anakin kills Obi-Wan in the Mustafar duel, and then he kills Palpatine and says,
No, the galaxy belongs to me.
and that was one of like the coolest Star Wars moments ever. So imagine creating an entire game based around moments and stories like that. What would have happened if Darth Vader lived, you know, after Luke saved him from the Emperor? What if Luke turned to the dark side at some point? Maybe these games are just too ambitious, and that's why we haven't seen a third one. Free Radical apparently was unable to meet milestones, deadlines, and eventually LucasArts got fed up with it. And though Battlefront 2015...
Remember how Marvel has this whole what if series? I think it was in comics first, and then they did that Netflix thing. I'm pretty sure you could apply that same concept to Star Wars and just do that. It's just an alternate fan-made timeline that is just really cool. I think that would have been really cool.
Offered a great spectacle. It just wasn't it, Chief. You know, nobody wants to have a neutered Battlefront again with no Clone Wars or space battles. You know what I mean? Anything less than what we currently have with Battlefront 2 would feel disappointing. Realistically, it's just such an imposing game for anyone to make. So with all that being said, I think it's apparent why Battlefront 3 hasn't been made, why it was canceled in 2008, and why EA rejected a sales pitch for it, and why nobody is currently working on it. It's a monumental task too easy to fuck up. I hope to see it one day. I mean, hopefully before I die.
I was about to say that. It might come out when like you're 50 or something, or 60.
Because there's a hole in my heart that only wrist rockets can fill. The series just might be too ambitious, too much of a risk, and not a single developer is in a position to build off the latest entry. So where does that leave?
They're all too busy maintaining their live service games that are supposed to last 5+ years, and also making paid cosmetics that supposedly take a year to make in the case of mythic skins for Overwatch. All right. So yeah, they're just too busy. They cannot be bothered.
Leave us. Well, you and me, we're all just brothers and sisters without an army. And that is the tragedy of Star Wars Battlefront 3. But what do you think? Post your thoughts and ideas for your ideal Battlefront 3 in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content. All right, everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace.
Hell yeah. God dang, another banger. Hot diggity. Yeah, Battlefront 3 ain't coming out anytime soon, like he said. It's too easy to fuck up. It's too niche. I really wonder what the game would feel like if it used a different engine. Like, what if Battlefront 3 used Unreal Engine instead of Frostbite, but then there's that whole physics thing that Frostbite has, or at least in the case of vehicles. Like, is there another game engine that would be useful or could contend with Frostbite? Or where's, we hear what do you call it, Unreal 5 with all these updates, Unreal 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. Where's all the fucking Frostbite updates, like Frostbite 2, Frostbite 2.1, 2.2? Is Unreal the only one? And in all these Unreal updates, it's like, oh, it's easier to do this, it's easier to do that. Where's all the Frostbite updates that make it easier to do this and easier to do that? All right, where's all of that shit? All right, why has it got to be so goddamn complicated? Shit, look at Unreal. Every update, it's easier to do this and that. Come on. All right. Okay, that's enough bitch moan complaining. Yeah, that's all. And I thought it was another good video from Ackman. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so I'll catch you guys on the next one. And yeah, all right, later.